Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? Hope everyone is doing great. If you are new here, you're welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, you are also welcome. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to make a one side butterfly boo dress. The other side is going to have a normal sleeve. I also will be fixing a collar on the dress, and this is the collar I'll be working with. It's an already made collar, as you can see. So this is the fabric I'll be working with. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, 4 years should be enough for this style. Okay, depending on the person you're making for. If you're making this dress for a plus size person, please 4 years will not be enough. Okay, so another thing you have to consider while getting your fabric is the print on it, the design on your fabric. Okay, like this very one I'm working with, you can see the vertical design on it. Okay, so I am working with 4 years because the vertical line was not placed lengthwise. Now I'm going to use this to show you. I'm going to use this very piece to show you. You can look at this. This is the English mouth where you put your tape to measure the yardage. Can you see? You can see how the print is on is looking on it. Okay, can you see? So I'm not going to cut this way. I want to cut this way. Therefore, I'm going to waste a lot of material. It's going to consume a lot of fabric, okay? That's why I'm using 4 years. But if the design is this way, this vertical line is placed like this, okay? That means 3 years should be enough for me because my client is not on the plus size. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to explain. If you're working with any fabric, make sure that you check the print. If you, depending on how you want to place your print, check whether the yardage you're buying will be enough. Okay, if you have a print like this, you can see automatically you're not going to cut this way, you're going to cut this way. Therefore, you need enough fabric. If you want to buy 3 years, you'll end up buying 4 years because 3 years will not be enough. Because by the time you turn your fabric this way, as in vertical in a vertical if vertically, you need more than 3 yards. Okay, that is if you're not working for a plus size person. But if you're working for a plus size person, you need at least 6 yards. Yes, I have a client that her hip is 66. You can see how big the person is. So if I'm making something like this for her, I should get 6 yards. So by the time I turn it this way, that 6 yards should be enough. And another thing you have to consider is the length of the fabric you're working with. Okay, so that is how you're going to that is what you're going to consider while getting your fabric. So having said that, we'll start cutting the dress. I hope you're not confused on how many years you're going to get for this type of dress. What I'm trying to explain is the particular prints you have on your fabric determines how many years you're going to buy. If it's a regular print that doesn't need you to place it in a particular way, then 3 years should be enough for you if you are not on a plus size, okay? But if the fabric you're getting has a vertical lines or horizontal lines, okay, on the part you're going to measure, that is where you're going to measure your yardage, that means you have to consider your how many years you're going to buy. Now, the fabric I am working with, you can see how the vertical line is placed. It's placed horizontally on the part I'm going to take my measurement. That's the yardage. Okay, so therefore, I am not getting 3 years. I bought 4 years because by the time you turn your fabric to the design you want or the vertical lines, as in to get your vertical lines, you end up the style will end up consuming a lot of fabric. That is what I'm trying to explain. I hope you are not still confused. So I've gone ahead to fold my fabric into two. I'll be cutting the back first, then I'll use the back to cut the front. Now, for you to know how much you're going to fold, you're going to measure your your shoulder divided by 2. That is, the shoulder I'm working with is 16 inches. Divided by 2 will give me 8 inches. Now, the length of my sleeve is 16 inches plus 1 inch hemming allowance will give me 17 inches. So 17 plus that 8 inches from the shoulder will give me 25 inches. So I folded my fabric unfold 25 inches. So by the time you open the fabric up, you have 50 inches. So that is how to know how much you're going to fold, okay? And another thing is how big your client is. Like I mentioned earlier that I have a client that her hip is 66 inches. So if I'm doing that, I should also consider her hip, okay? So if you have a client that has her hip is 66 inches, you have to consider that while folding your fabric, okay? So that is that. So I'm going to be using this my back pattern to cut out the dress because I am working with a silk fabric. If I'm going to mark on it, you will notice that my fabric will keep shifting because the fabric is silky, okay? It keeps shifting, it won't be at the place, and that will make me to have a lot of mistakes on the fabric, which I wouldn't like that to happen. So I'm going to be using my back pattern, then I'll place on the fabric this way, then trace out my armhole, then mark the measurement and use it to cut. Okay, so let's do that together. So the fabric is already on fold, as you can see. Then I'll place the back pattern this way. Okay, I'm going to use the scissors to hold the pattern down. So like I told you, the shoulder is 18 inches. Sorry, it's 16 inches divided by 2 will give me 8 inches. So this is my 8 inches, and this pattern has a half-inch allowance to fix the sleeve already. It has the half-inch allowance to fix the sleeve already, okay? So the next thing I'm going to do now is to trace the pattern. Now remember that one side of the dress is going to have a normal sleeve, while the other side has a butterfly sleeve. So I'll go ahead and trace the armhole curve on the pattern, trace it on the fabric this way. Hope you are seeing what I'm doing. Okay, so this is it. The next thing I'm going to do now is to take the bust measurements of my client, and the bust I'm working with is 43 inches. Okay, divide by, sorry, it's 44, divide by 4 will give me 11 inches. Then I need to add 1 inch ease, that will give me 12, plus 1.5 seam allowance will give me 13 and a half. So I'm going to mark 13 and a half around her bust, okay, her chest line. So this is it. So for the half length, that her waistline is 18 inches, okay? So I'm going to mark 18 inches. Now this pattern is 16 inches. The half length for this back pattern is 16 inches. So what I'm going to do now is to place my tape on the pattern where I'll place my 16 inches on that pattern. That is the tape, this 16 inches, and I'll go down and mark 18 inches because that 18 inches is my client half length. That is her waistline, okay? So at the point of that 18 inches, I'm going to mark her waist measurement, which gives me 38 inches, okay? So 38 inches divided by 4 will give me, sorry, her waistline is 39 inches, not 38, okay? So 39 divided by 4 will give me 9 3/4, okay? So 9 3/4 plus 1 inch is will give me 10 3/4, okay? So I'll mark 10 3/4, then I'll add 1.5 side seam allowance, okay? So this is 1.5 side seam allowance. I will go ahead and mark it. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is to take her hip depth, which is 9 inches. So at the point of that 18 inches, that is her half length, I'll go down by 9 inches and I'll mark. So at that point of 9 inches, I'm going to take her round hip, and the hip I'm working with is 40. Her hip is 46 inches, okay? So 46 divided by 4 will give me 11.5. Am I right? Yes, 11.5. Okay, so plus 1.5, well, sorry, plus 1 inch is will give me 12.5. Then I'll add 1.5 seam allowance. That will give me 14 inches. So I'll go ahead and mark 14 inches. Now for the hemline, for you, for you to know how the measurement you're going to use for your hemline, what you're going to do is to divide your hip by 4, add your seam allowance, then you add 5 inches to that. Like my hip, the hip I'm working with is 46 inches divided by 4 will give me 11.5 plus 1.5 seam allowance will give me 13 inches. When I add 5 inches to 13, that will give me 18 inches. Okay. I remember I did not add that 1 inch is. What I did is divide my hip by 4, then add 1.5 seam allowance to it, which gave me 13 inches plus 5 inches. That gave me 18 inches. So what you're going to do whenever you are confused, you don't know how wide or how to take your hemline measurement, what to mark, especially when you're making a boo dress that requires the hemline to be wide for you to be able to walk. What you're going to do, divide your hip by 4, add your side seam allowance, then you add 5 inches to that. So when you do that, that will enable you to move well without that area being tight. Okay, so for my clients, I'll be working with 18 inches after adding 5 inches to her hip plus the seam allowance. Okay, so at the hemline, I'm going to bring it up. I'll mark 18 inches. So from the center back, I'm going to mark 18 inches, and this is the 18 inches here. Now for the length of this dress, the length of the dress is 39 inches. Sorry, it's 59 inches. Okay, from here to the hemline is 59 inches. Okay, so that includes the hemming allowance. So I am done with the measurement. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to connect the points. Okay. So this is my chest line where I have the bust measurement. I'm going to connect it to the waist this way. Okay. And waist to the hip. Please don't skip any part of this video because I'm going to be explaining how to cut one side without cutting the other side where our butterfly will fall on it. Okay, so please don't skip any part. Then keep to the hemline. So I'm done doing that. The next thing I'm going to do now is to cut out the dress. Now the neckline I will be working with is 3 inches by 1 inch depth. Okay, for the neck, remember we are cutting the back first. Okay, so for you to start cutting, what you're going to do now is to raise this side up. One side, I hope you're seeing it. You can see that one side is down. You are raising one side, and that side you're raising is the side that you're going to fix your sleeve on. Okay, so I'm going to raise this part so that I will not cut this side together with this down part. Okay, I hope you're seeing what I'm doing. Let me adjust the camera so you can see it well. Okay. So I'll start from the hemline to cut. Okay, raising the top part up so that I will not cut the down part. Okay, so can you see what I'm doing? So I'll gently do this. see, you can see I'm only cutting the top parts. I'm not touching the other part. That is the one, the down part. Okay, so I'll continue doing that. Cut it out, then cut my neckline. So as you can see, I've cut out the armhole and the neckline, and I'm done cutting the side, as you can see. So there's the part that has the butterfly effect. Can you see? So this is the side that has a normal sleeve. Can you see? So the next thing I'm going to do now is to cut the sleeve, the shoulder slope on the part that will be having the butterfly effect. Okay, so I'm going to, at this side here, I'm going to go down by 2 inches, then I'll connect to the shoulder. Okay, so this is it. Hope you are seeing what I'm doing. So this is it. I'll measure 2 inches. Okay, measure 2 inches. Then I'll connect to the shoulder this way. Can you see? So I'm going to cut that part out. So we are done with the neckline now. Now I'm coming to the main body. We have to trace whatever we have on this side, because we're going to be sewing on top of this while we join this part inside, as in the allowance we're going to sew inside this part, we're going to sew on top of the right side of the fabric. Therefore, we need to transfer our measurement on this side. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to mark the bust, trace the bust line. Please watch carefully, because I'm still going to minus some inches from this thing I'm doing here. So this is the waistline. Can you see? And this is where I have my hip. Okay, and coming to the hemline, I also trace the hemline. This is my hemline. Okay, can you see? Can you see? I've already marked where I have my waist, where I have my bust, hip, and the hemline. So what I'm going to do now is to remove my pattern, because I'm done with the pattern. Okay. So I'm going to raise my fabric up this way to make sure that I have all the markings on the right side of the fabric. This is the waist, this is the hip. Okay, so I'll raise this up a bit. Then at the point where I have my bust measurement, I'm going to go in by 1.5. Why I'm going in by 1.5 is that 1 point. Remember, we added 1.5 for sewing allowance on this side. So we need to remove it from this side, because we're going to be stitching on top of the fabric. We don't need any sewing allowance, because if we leave that sewing allowance on this side, one side of the dress is going to be big. It's going to make the dress as a whole to be more to look bigger. Okay, it won't be that smart, because she doesn't want it to be too big, she doesn't want it to be too tight. Okay, so we're going to eliminate that 1.5 size seam allowance on this side alone. Okay, so we're going to go in at that point I'm going to go in by 1.5, and this is by 1.5 here. This is my 1.5. This is the mark I made earlier. I came in by 1.5, and this is the 1.5, because I'm going to eliminate that size seam allowance I added on this side. Please, I hope you're not confused. Now, another thing I'm going to do is that this side, I don't want it to be tight because I'm not fixing sleeve. This is like a free altogether sleeve. That is this side. So what I'm going to do, instead of my armhole being here, I'm going to come down by 1 inch so that that part is going to be a bit free because there won't be sleeve. It's just like a cut together. Okay, so I'll come down by 1 inch. Okay, and this is my 1 inch, so that becomes my new chest line for this side. You can as well leave it here if you wish, but I like when I'm making a butterfly dress, I want that area to be free. Okay, so that is that. I hope you're not confused. This is the initial chest line. That is where I have my bust measurement. I came in by 1.5 because I want to eliminate the side seam allowance I added on this side. Okay, that is it. Then I came down by 1 inch because I want the armhole area on this butterfly side to be free. I came down by 1.5, maintaining that 1.5. I came down by 1 inch, maintaining that 1.5 side seam allowance I eliminated. Okay, so that's that. So this becomes our new bust line where I have my bust measurements. So coming to the waist, this is where I make the point. I'm going to place my tape 1.5, come in by 1.5 because I'm eliminating the side seam allowance. This is simple. Please don't skip any part of this video. Okay, so this is it. Coming to the hip, I'm going to come in by 1.5 again, eliminating the side seam allowance that was added there. Can you see? This is it. I need to make this thing to look obvious so that I won't have issue while stitching it. Okay, then I'll come down to the hemming allowance. Sorry, the hemline. Okay, this is where I have my mark. I'm going to come in by 1.5 to eliminate the side seam allowance I added there. Okay, so this is it. So I'm done doing that. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to connect the new points. Okay, is to connect the new points now. So this is my new chest line. I'm going to connect it to the waistline. This is the new waistline. Okay, this way. So that by the time I start sewing, I'll sew on the mark I've made. Okay, can you see it? If you can't see, just follow my instruction, you will understand this. Okay, so the waist I'm going to connect to the new hip line. Look at it. Okay. So I'm going to connect it straight to the new hemming line. Okay, and we are done. So this is it. So I'm done making the mark. So by the time I start sewing, I will sew on this line I've marked. Okay. You see, that's the new measurement now. Can you see? Can you see where it started here? Can you see? So that is it. So I'm going to open our dress so that you can see. Can you see? Can you see the neckline? Can you see the part that has the butterfly? So this is the armhole for one side. Now at this point, you have to determine where you want the butterfly effect to be. Is it on the right side? Is it on the left side? Now I want my client own to be at the left. Okay, so if it's going to be at the left, this is left, that means this side is going to be the right side, not the back. Do you understand? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the fabric I'm using for the back, then I will place this one on top of it and trace it so that the back is going to match with the front. If you don't do it this way, If you try to fold to cut the other piece, you will end up having your butterfly on the wrong side. Maybe if you want your butterfly to be at the left, you notice that the front is at the left while the back is at the left. So the best way to avoid this kind of mistake is to carry your fabric like this, get the one you're using to cut the second piece, place it on top of it, then trace it out, making sure the wrong side of the fabric is matching with the wrong side of the first one you've already cut. And when you're done doing that, remember that we use back pattern to cut this. Now you already know where your front is. What you're going to do, go to your armhole, then you deepen your armhole, because the armhole for the front is supposed to be more deeper than the armhole for the back. Then you now shape your neckline for the front. Now remember, we're going to fix a collar on this dress. So whatever you're doing, make sure that your neckline doesn't exceed 3 inches depth and 3 inches wide, okay? Because the collar we are using already is not more than 20 inches, okay? So please, that is if you are using an already made collar. But if you are using the one you can make for yourself, then you can go ahead and cut your neckline however you wish. At the end of the day, you measure and use it to cut your collar, okay? So I'm going to get my other fabric, then I'll place it and show you what I was trying to explain. So like I was explaining, I said you should spread out the one you've already cut and use it to cut the second piece. Because the table is not big enough, I cut on the floor. Okay, that's why I cut off camera. So you can see I have 2 pieces here. The same thing. What I did is just to place this upper part on top of the fabric I'm using to cut the other parts, then trace it out. That is what I did. Okay, so at this point we already know our front. So this is the front because I want the butterfly effect to be at the left side. But if you want your butterfly to be at the right side, what you're going to do is just to turn it this way, okay? Because you use the neckline, the back to cut the front, you can turn it anyway, then you reshape the one you are using for the front, reshape the neckline, reshape the armhole, and you're good to go, okay? So we are using, you want the butterfly to be at the left, so we'll now maintain the one we'll cut first, okay, where we have our mark, as you can see. So this is it. I hope you can see it well. So there's a part that will have the armhole, that will have the normal sleeve, can you see? And there's the part that has the butterfly. Can you see? Can you see? So the next thing I'm going to do now is to pick this piece. I'm going to pick this one, keep it aside, then turn the one for the fold the one for the back. Okay, so this is the one for the back. I'm going to fold it again because I want to open the center back, because there will be a button at the center back to enable my client to wear it without any struggle. Okay, so I will fold into 2 this way. You're going to use your neckline to know, okay, to fold. Okay, so this is it, maintaining the one that has the butterfly effect. You can see how I folded it. You're going to use your neckline and the shoulder to know. Can you see? Okay, so if you're using a fabric that doesn't have design that you can follow to cut your center back, what you're going to do before you separate your center back from before you open it up, you're going to press it to create a crease line. That crease line will enable you know where your center back falls on before you open up your fabric, please. Okay, but because I have a print, a vertical print, I'll use that vertical print as my guide. So what I'm going to do now is to measure how long I want the opening to be at the back. So I want it at 5 inches, okay? So this is my 5 inches here. Can you see? So I'll go ahead and open it up. So this is it. Can you see? You see the opening. So I'll bring the front because I need to reshape the neckline for the front. The neckline for the back is 3 inches by 1 inch depth. So I want the neckline for the front um, to be 3 inches by 3 inches because of the collar we'll be fixing. So I want to measure the collar so that I'll even know how long the collar is. Okay, so this is the collar we're working with. It's an ready-made collar, like I've mentioned earlier. So what we have here is it's not even up to 20, 17, and let me see, 17 and a half. Can you see? So we don't need to cut more than 3 inches by 3 inches. If not, the neckline will be too wide and this will not match. Okay, so this is our neckline for the front. So what I need to measure is to measure the, so this is where I have my 3 inches here. This is where I have my 3 inches. Remember that the back neckline is 3 inches by 1 inch depth. So I place my 1 inch on this point. Then this is my where I have the 3 inches. So I'll follow that point and cut the neckline. Can you see? So I'm trying to adjust the neckline so that I can match up before I cut. Okay. So I'm good to go. Okay, can you see? So I'm done with the neckline for the front. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do now is to go to the machine and stitch this part, the two pieces, join the two pieces together. So for the sleeve, this is the piece I'll be using for the sleeve. Remember that the sleeve is going to be is 16 inches plus 1 inch hemming allowance will give me 17 inches. Okay, so I'm also going to add half inch at the top so that I can fix it to the sleeve so that it will not short the length. So I'll use this and cut the sleeve. Okay, so I'll go now and join the front to the back and join the part that has the side seam allowance inside. Then for the butterfly effect, I'm going to stitch it on top. So I'll quickly go and do that, and I'll come back and show you how far I've gone with the sewing. So this is how far I've gone with the dress. As you can see, I've closed this side, and for the butterfly side, I stitch on the fabric following the mark I made earlier. I've also gone ahead to fix the sleeve. That's for the other side where um, I have my armhole. So I fixed the sleeve, as you can see. Okay, so coming to the back, you know, I open the neckline for the back so that it will be easier for my client to wear it. So for the opening, I use a bias tape to finish it up. Can you see? Can you see? So the next thing we're going to do now is to fix the collar. I've also hemmed the down parts. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is to fix the collar, and this is our collar. This is a ready-made collar, as you all know. So what I did is just to open up the down part of the collar. Can you see? Because they stitch it. So I open it up, then fold my collar into two this way. Can you see? Get the midpoint. It's either you notch or you make a mark. Okay, so this is how the collar is going to sit on the neckline of this dress. This is how it's going to look like, okay, by the time I'm done fixing it. Can you see what I'm doing? This is how the collar is going to sit on the neckline. So what I'm going to do now is to fold into two, get the midpoint, notch, or I make a mark, okay? So I'm going to open up this collar this way. Remember, I've opened up the down part, the stitch that open it up, getting the midpoint, still holding the midpoint. I'll get the midpoint of the front, then I'm going to match the two midpoints together, and I'm going to sew round to the back, okay? And when I'm done doing that, this one that is left, I'm going to use it to cover up the rough edges by stitching, by top stitching on it, okay? And when I'm done doing that, it will look like this. This is how our collar is going to sit on the neckline, okay? So I'll quickly go and do that, and I'll come back and show you the finished look. So I'm done fixing the collar. As you can see, it's looking so beautiful. Can you see? Can you see? And there's the back. Can you see? Can you see? So this is the inside. Can you see? And there's the outside. Can you see? Looking so neat and clean. So this is how it looks on my mannequin. So this is a butterfly sleeve. Can you see? And this is a normal sleeve. You can see the color sitting so pretty on the neckline. If you like what you're seeing, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in my next one.